Well, hey folks, real honestly, Witcher Ritlin and Goldberg versus Kevin Nash at Starrcade 1998 for the WCW title. Oh fuck the main event. Oh fuck this main event. Indeed, my god, it just fucked everything over and was one of the nails in the coffin of WCW. Now, I'm going to dive into this a little bit and dive into the history. But to give you an idea of what the show's going to be like, if you remember my Sting versus Hogan Starrcade 1997 20-year reflection show that I did last year, it's going to be similar to that. Now, the build for Sting versus Hogan was a shit ton better than this, mainly because it went on a whole lot longer. So that main event, the main event finish of that was a whole lot worse. Now, I know the crowd popped for Sting winning, but it still was a stupid way to do it, in my personal opinion. This is just from a fan's perspective. I ain't saying anything like I'm an insider or any of this kind of stuff. I'm just going with what I observe. And I pretty much hated the finish of Starrcade 97. It was absolutely abysmal. It made everybody look stupid. It made Brett look stupid. It made Sting look dumb. It made Hogan seem like the egotist that we all know he is. So going to Starrcade 98, we're going to have to go back to when Goldberg first started and see how we get to this point. And I'm not going to recap every single win that Goldberg had, even though the 173-0 record is pretty much bullshit. That it's probably, I would say, a little off the mark. Not that that's the first time WCW or any company fudged the numbers to make a record, a title reign, or a character or a gimmick seem bigger than it was. But Goldberg, from September 22nd, 1997, when he beat Hugh Morris on Live Nitro, it was a slow build. They had a big main event scene of like the NWO and various others that were able to keep the fans in tune while Goldberg was being built. And Goldberg was one of many being built. But Goldberg was like a homegrown star for them. And looking from where he built and built, beat Steve Mongo McMichael, that was a terrible feud. Had that match with William Regal, didn't go all that well on that, I believe, February 9th of 1998. That infamous one where Regal got fired, even though he was just doing what he was supposed to do, that Regal was just doing his job, and exposing the fact that Goldberg really wasn't that good of a wrestler. Goldberg was a hell of an athlete. He had a great look. He had an intensity that the fans just were driven to watch. He did have some good power moves. That was it. He was not a good wrestler. He was not really that great in the ring. He could not really have that great of matches unless he was led, and that's my personal opinion. Yes, Goldberg does a lot of great things outside of wrestling. It's just in the ring. Once you see him like once or twice, it's like, okay, you've seen it. Now it's over. He never evolved really as a wrestler. Maybe he didn't need to. It worked for a time, especially in WCW. But he then wins the U.S. title from Raven, and then a couple months later beats Hogan on a Live Nitro at the Georgia Dome. Big packed house, and crowd went nuts and everything. Should save that for a pay-per-view. I get why they didn't, but they should have saved it for a pay-per-view. I also did a 20-year reflection on that back, years ago. But anyway, going with Goldberg, he wins the title there. So it was July 6th, 1998. July 4th or July 6th. I believe it was July 6th. Days kind of run together sometimes for me. And he won at the beginning of July. So then he has a match. He has a match at Bash at the Beach, 98. And he has a match at Road Wild. And then they just have these goofy, these matches where they have him, like he has this little feud with Chris Jericho that goes nowhere, because Goldberg doesn't want to really wrestle Chris Jericho and ends up eating him alive at one point soon after, even though Jericho had done a damn good job building himself up. Where it should have happened, where Goldberg's streak should have ended, was Halloween Havoc 98. Because DDP was not even an up-and-coming star, but he was a grassroots type that had been a heel for a while and then had lost everything, and then built up how he could hit the Diamond Cutter out of nowhere, and the Diamond Cutter's still better than the RKO. I'll fight you I won't fight you even if I disagree, or even if you disagree, but that's just my opinion. I like the Diamond Cutter better. But where it should have ended was right there, because DDP had won the previous match, or the War Games match of the previous pay-per-view, Fall Brawl 98, and where it should have happened was at Halloween Havoc 98, because DDP deserved it. He could have done more with the title. Now, I get why they didn't have Goldberg lose, but at the same time, looking at what they did later, it probably would have benefited more to have DDP win it, because DDP, yes, was an older star. He had started late as far as being a wrestler. He's a great manager, and he was still, to me, a bit underappreciated as a wrestler. He actually is a really good worker, and it's it's damn inspiring to see that he was able to overcome a whole lot of shit and do a whole lot of good stuff in the short time that he was in, like an active member of wrestling. Because I think he started in 91. I think he started in 1990, 1991, like as a wrestler. And by 2002, when he had a serious neck injury in WWE, it was only about 11 years. 10, 11 years that he had, and he was able to accomplish being a multi-time world champion. Granted, it was near the end of WCW's like big run at the top, or at least big competitive run. But the whole point is DDP should have beaten Goldberg. It would have given a nice pop, because if you listen, you go back and check out Halloween Havoc 98, check out the pop that DDP received when he hit the Diamond Cutter on Goldberg, and he'd been working on Goldberg's shoulder, reversed out the jackhammer attempt, Diamond Cutter, crowd goes absolutely insane. If he had beaten Goldberg right there, would have been perfect. I don't think anybody would have complained. It was at a fever pitch. Goldberg sure would have only had the title for about 3.5 months, but then he could have faced DDP down the road. He could have beaten DDP at Starrcade. Had a rematch, and there you go. And you put a dent in Goldberg, but you protect him by having DDP be the guy to beat him. But they didn't do that. Goldberg beat DDP. Okay, crowd was a little deflated. The crowd was starting to turn on Goldberg well before Starrcade 98 happened, even though they were having to pipe in some Goldberg chants. Not all of them, but they were having to pipe in some Goldberg chants. And then you have Nash. And you take a look back at like Nash and like his 98. I mean, 97 you could go back and look at that, but 98 they had the formation of the Wolfpack, which, was what it was. Wolfpack had a cool theme. Had some cool members. Disco Inferno notwithstanding, because Disco's a piece of shit and always has been a piece of shit. But, they had Conan, Luger. Luger's a piece of shit, by the way, too. But Nash enters this feud with Scott Hall. And goes into Halloween Havoc 98 and beats the shit out of Scott Hall, and then lets Scott Hall win by a countout, because Nash makes his point by jackknifing him and everything. And I cover that in the Halloween Havoc reflection that I really did not have the most fun with, only because Hogan versus Warrior, good fucking Christ, that match took years off my life. But so Nash loses to Scott Hall by countout, even though he wins the war, maybe not the battle. And then he wins the World War III Battle Royal concept to earn a shot to face Goldberg at the following pay-per-view, Starrcade. So now you got 5-6 weeks to build this up. Okay, they did a pretty good job. I give them that much credit. They had a good amount of TV. You had Nitro competing with Raw. You had Thunder, and this is well before SmackDown came along. But you had this build and this stuff, and so, okay, you're keeping Goldberg undefeated. You got Goldberg undefeated. You could have had DDP be the one to end the streak, and it would have benefited DDP in the long run, everybody. You didn't do that. Have him beat Nash. Because Nash was going to be over regardless of what happened. Now, it is what it is. It already happened, obviously, because that's why it's a reflection show and not something live that happened, even though it'd be weird to be talking about a show in 98 and 2018 without looking back on saying, hey, they could have done this differently. Again, just from me observing as a fan, the match itself, so you got Nash and you got Goldberg. You got Michael Buffer doing the introductions. It's a no DQ match. The match itself was not that good. There were some power moves. I didn't expect anybody to do flips. I did not expect anybody to do hurricanranas. I expected power moves, but this was slow and sluggish, and you knew they were going to do a bullshit finish. I just didn't think they were going to do this bullshit finish. I thought they'd have interference happen, because they've had interference happen in Goldberg matches. He beats everybody up, beats the guy, and there you go. They were chanting Goldberg sucks in the match. They were. Some of the fans were. Not everybody, but they were loud enough to where even, having headphones on, even not having headphones on, you can hear Goldberg sucks, Goldberg sucks. So they go to the finish, which, you have Disco Inferno there, which Goldberg, quite frankly, should have stiffed Disco worse than he did Bret Hart at Starrcade 99, because that's just how little respect I have for Disco's a goddamn idiot. Goddamn moron. I mean, what the fuck good did he ever do for wrestling? He didn't do shit. He didn't do shit. Oh, he did a disco gimmick. He did this. He was a TV champion. He was this. He was one of the worst TV champions of all time. And that's including some of the people that's including somebody like Tom Zenk, who was TV champion for all of like 2 weeks but at least he was somewhat over. I mean, I'm sorry, Disco was just one of those rotten types that only would have worked in WCW, and he really only did, and wasn't much of anything even in NWA TNA, and the only reason he was there is because he was a friend of Russo, or just a friend of The Office, I'm not sure. But the whole point is Disco gets taken out. And now we get to actual wrestlers, because Nash is down. You got Bam Bam Bigelow runs in. They got this thing going on between Bam Bam Bigelow and Goldberg. Bam Bam gets thrown over the top rope, clotheslined over the top, and then even though Bam Bam's supposed to be in jail, maybe he escaped jail or something. I never understood why they did that in the 90s, because no one fucking believed it. I could get in the 70s and 80s why they did that. He broke out of jail to get at this dastardly heel, or the heel broke out of jail to get at this baby face, or something like that. Didn't work in the 90s because we knew that that's not how things were working. But anyway, Bam Bam's out. You got Nash still down. Goldberg goes to the corner. He's ready. And then a security guard, Scott Hall, with a cattle prod, stun gun, just shocks Goldberg. He does that. He does something like that. Goldberg does the Slender Man facials, and if you've seen Slender Man, I'm sorry, but you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, he just does this, and he's doing the because he's electrocuted and all that. This is a weird video all of a sudden. But then Nash suddenly rising back, back on the streets or whatever, rising up. Hits a jackknife, 1, 2, 3. And that's the end of Goldberg's streak. When they did that horseshit finish, it killed Goldberg right away. That didn't protect Goldberg. It was more of a slap in the face, because Nash would have been over regardless of whether he beat Goldberg or not. He could have still been over. He was still going to be playing fine. I get the idea of wanting to end Goldberg's streak, but they should have continued it for a while. Because if you weren't going to have DDP beat him, somebody that was really over, Nash, who is super over, didn't need to beat Goldberg. And then they followed that up with doing the finger poke of doom, and I will actually do a reflection on that. I will probably watch both the Raw and the Nitro and compare that, or maybe I'll just do a finger poke of doom reflection. Maybe I'll compare finger poke of doom and Mick Foley winning the WWE title, because that did put some butts in the seats, and that's not knocking Tony Schiavone. He was just told to say that. That's not knocking him. But whoever told him to say that they pretty much shot themselves in the foot. And that's what WCW did here. Once they did that stupid horseshit finish, taking the finish that they did for Sting versus Hogan, for whatever reason, they were still at their damn peak. They pissed away 15 months worth of storytelling, but they did get a big buy rate out of that. I'm sure they got a big buy rate out of Starrcade 98. I don't know how big the buy rate was, but I'm sure it was pretty damn good. And then the finger poke of doom happened, I think a week later. I think something like that. I think it was a week or so later, and it was just stupid. He did that. It's like that just pissed away everything that they did with Nash, where they could have taken, the thing with Nash and pushed him for a while, but no, they gave it back to Hogan. And instead of Goldberg getting his shot at Hogan a couple months later, building it up or something, or even having it happen at Bash at the Beach, nearly a year after Goldberg had beaten Hogan again, no, we never got that again. We never got that. No, we got a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, Goldberg maybe wasn't the biggest athlete he maybe not the biggest athlete. He was one of the biggest stars they had. They had a goddamn monster star built from the ground up, and they cut his legs off. And they made it where he was just the same as everybody else, that it was all the old guard, that Nash, Hogan, Hall were still going to be the guys doing it. And after about 2.5 years by this point, the NWO had pretty much been done. Now, the NWO actually faded away from TV, I think, right after Halloween Havoc 98. I don't think they really made that many references to the NWO. But then it got rebranded and revamped, during the whole Finger Poke of Doom Nitro episode, which was just absolutely stupid. It was one of the worst things that WCW's done. And the bottom line is this was one of the things that killed WCW, was just not understanding how to keep somebody hot. CM Punk said it best on the Monday Night Wars, the Monday Night Wars thing about Goldberg. Should we zap him with a taser? Good idea? Not a good idea. It was horrible. It's garbage. And when something in this industry gets hot, you run with it. You don't zap with a taser. And that's what WCW did. They basically stood Goldberg in a puddle, zapped him with a taser. It killed him. It pretty much scorched the company. Because even though they were still competitive in the ratings, even after the Finger Poke of Doom episode. Until about July, August, something like that. And then stuff just stopped. Which is kind of right around the time that Bischoff got, sent home from the company. Well, fired from the company. For whatever reason. And I'm not blaming Bischoff. But once they got him out of the way, they brought in Russo and that didn't help. But that's a whole other story. And let's be perfectly honest. You could put anybody in Russo's position. And this is just finishing this up. You could put anybody in Russo's position and you know what would have happened? Same damn thing. And here's why the same damn thing would have happened. Because Time Warner and people doing the takeover didn't want WCW to succeed. No matter what. No matter how much money it made. No matter how much money it lost. No matter whether it made $600 million in profit. They didn't want it. They just didn't understand it. And that's it. Nobody could have saved WCW by like mid-99. Which is sad given the amount of talent that they had. But Goldberg was their guy. And they killed it. And yeah, okay, the crowd may have popped initially. But by the time the Finger Poke of Doom happened, the crowd was like muted and just... And people were... You check out the crowd reactions at, say, Sold Out 98. Look at the crowd reactions to Starrcade 98. So Sold Out 98 in January. Starrcade 98 in December. Look at the reactions at Sold Out 99. 1 month later, barely 1 month later, muted. No matter how good the talents were, they had pissed off the fans, annoyed them to no end. And even though WWE TV was kind of rotten a lot of the time, mainly because it was all messy and Crash TV, they got a big dose of the WCW fans that were irritated and went over there. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that. So Goldberg versus Kevin Nash was pretty goddamn rotten. I dived in a little bit on that and gave my opinions. Yes, I will be doing a reflection on either just Foley's win versus the Finger Poke of Doom or maybe the entire episodes. Depends what I can do. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. It's been Real Honesty with John Rethlin, and I will see you soon.